Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. So today we are covering yet another female sexual predator who was in a position of trust and care. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but there seems to be so many of these cases lately. But I think it's so important to cover these cases to highlight the fact that there is clearly a problem. And the woman in question that we are going to be talking about today is a woman called Payton Shires.
I'm really sorry that all of this happened. I feel horrible that the mother and that their family has been affected so horribly by this. I just feel horrible for the mistakes that I made in the social worker-client relationship. I cared for him, I wanted to support him, but my lack of boundaries caused severe mistakes to be made.
And Payton was just the worst. So she was a social worker. She was actually a therapist, entrusted by parents to look after and care for the most vulnerable children out there. But did Payton do that? No, of course she didn't, because one day she actually started seeing one of her patients who was a child. And thankfully, her sexual predatory nature got revealed and it should have been case closed. However, the case doesn't actually stop there. Oh no, because there is something that happens in this case that I did not see coming, because she ended up at the home of this child with a gun, because she thought that that would bring all of her problems to an end and she wanted revenge. Yeah, you heard that right. The sexual predator that is taking advantage of her position of power wants to take out revenge on her victim. And when I first came across this case, it blew my mind. It is a very important case to talk about, so let's jump in. Payton Shires was born on the 6th of October 1999, making her a Libran. And she grew up in Mount Sterling, Ohio, which is just outside the city of Columbus, where the rest of this case takes place. And we literally know zero information about Payton's childhood, her teenage years. We know absolutely nothing. So we're going to skip forward to when Payton is 21 years old. And that is where this case really starts to take shape. Because by all accounts, at this time, Payton had the perfect life. She was currently engaged to a man named Nicholas Rafter, who was 3 years older than her, and they had been together for a couple of years at this point. The couple also owned their own home. They had a 2-story house in the Ohio suburbs. They had 3 dogs. A couple of years into their relationship, this is when Payton went on to give birth to their first child, who was a baby boy. And Payton would repeatedly say on social media how perfect her life was. She posted on Twitter, quote, "I own a house, have 3 dogs, got engaged, have a 1-year-old, all by the age of 21. She also said that her life was like a movie, that she didn't think things could get any better than they were. However, were things perfect? Of course they weren't, because nobody's life is perfect. However, Payton's life was definitely less than perfect, because her little family was hiding a big secret. And that is because the fiancé, Nicholas, was a convicted sexual predator. Yes, they are definitely like-minded. And not just any sexual predator, a child sexual predator. He was actually convicted of sexual conduct with a child, which is just so chilling. It is eerily similar to what Payton goes on to do. So back in 2015, the fiancé Nicholas, he was currently 19 years old at the time. So before he even met Payton, he went out one evening and he meets a 14-year-old girl. And it is alleged that after Nicholas met this 14-year-old girl, he gave her some sort of drug or intoxicating substance. And once the 14-year-old child was drugged up, this is when 19-year-old Nicholas allegedly raped a child. And I say allegedly, and I keep emphasizing that, because Nicholas was arrested for rape of a child. He was actually charged with rape, sexual battery, and sexual conduct with a minor. But somehow he managed to work in a plea deal where all of these charges were dropped and he only had to plead guilty to a lesser charge, which was endangering children. So that's why I say allegedly. But, you know, And he was sentenced to 4 years and 11 months in prison. But unbelievably, just a year later, in August of 2017, Nicholas was released after only serving 12 months. And apparently he would be placed on intensive supervision for the next 5 years. But it was during this supervision that he met a fellow sexual predator named Payton Shires. So they are now raising their child, they're living in their nice little house. They wanted everyone to see them as this perfect couple, as this perfect family. However, Payton struggled to keep up this image of her perfection because it's said that Payton's nature is naturally a selfish person. She's very, very entitled, very me, look at me. So it was really hard for her to keep up this ruse of the perfect image. She would get into petty little arguments with her neighbors. She showed no respect for people around her, and she quickly became disliked in the neighborhood. Neighbors would actually describe Payton as someone that was used to getting their own way and that she could be very controlling and manipulative. And what is just really ironic, I don't know if someone maybe caught wind of the fact that the fiance was a sexual predator, but it's just really ironic because Payton actually goes on social media and declares how much she hates pedophiles. She actually said in posts, "Dead pedophiles don't reoffend," and hashtag "save the children." And of course, nobody likes pedophiles. This is perfectly fine to say on social media, but it's just really ironic. It just seems fishy to me. It just feels like she's trying to shout so loud that she hates pedophiles because she is one herself and her fiance, you know? And things go on like this for a couple of years. So now we skip forward to 2023. Payton is now 23 years old. And this is where things start to go downhill very, very quickly. Because there is one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, and that is Payton had this dream from when she was very young, and her big dream in life was that she wanted to work with children. So after finishing high school, she went on to study at Ohio State University, where she got a degree in social work. She then also went on to study for a master's degree in social work. And over the last couple of years, as she was raising her young son, she had also been undergoing more training so that she could land herself her dream job in social work and then to work with children. And during her training, Payton had done quite a lot of things. She had done a ton of volunteer work. She volunteered at a local hospital, participated in a student-run mental health clinic. She also completed internships at multiple social services agencies across Ohio. And in June of 2023, after many years of training, after getting her degree and a master's degree, she now received her full license to start working as a social worker. And Payton was over the moon with this. This was her dream coming true. She had waited her whole life to do this. However, it wouldn't be long until she just threw it all away. Because after receiving her license, this is when Payton applied for her first full-time job, working for the National Youth Advocate Program. And this is a national organization that operates in at least 15 states across the US. And from what I could tell on the website, they are basically an organization that has been set up to help parents and children with a whole host of needs. They provide counseling for children and families. They also provide intensive treatment programs for children that are at risk. They even operate a foster care system where they help at-risk children find temporary homing before they can find a permanent home. So the main aim of this organization is to help children, especially the most vulnerable, the most at-risk children. So Payton started working for this organization, and what was her job going to be? Well, she was going to be a therapist to help with the mental health of the most vulnerable at-risk children, i.e., unfortunately, her perfect victims. So Payton starts her first job in the summer of 2023. She gets assigned to various different cases. She starts seeing one child after the other. And at some point between June of 2023 and August of 2023, something very significant happens. Because this is when Payton would get assigned to a child that we will call Boy A. And boy A was just 13 years old. So incredibly young. He's a child. He has literally only just entered his teenage years. And the parents of boy A had been having some difficulties with him. Boy A was having behavioral issues at school and also in the home. And the parents of boy A sought out the National Youth Advocate Program to help with their child. And they were interested in counseling and therapy. So this is when Payton got assigned to boy A because she's a therapist. So Payton and boy A started having one-on-one meetings with one another. Nobody else was in the room. There was no cameras, nothing. And they met on a frequent basis. And it was always just the two of them alone. Boy A's parents were never there. There was never another therapist or another adult present. And slowly but surely, the more time that 23-year-old Payton was spending with 13-year-old boy A, she started to manipulate and groom him. And we don't know the exact details of how this grooming began, but it is believed that it started with more intimate topics of conversation. And this was to try and lure boy A to let his guard down, to trust Payton. And she just slowly used these tactics to manipulate boy A bit by bit. It is then thought that Payton then turned to inappropriate touching. And this inappropriate touching may look innocent from the outside. It would just be an arm around the shoulder or a little pat on the shoulder, but then it might have been a rub down the back. It might have been a hand placed on the knee. All extremely inappropriate for a social worker to be touching one of her child patients like this. But all of this inappropriate touching, Payton would have been able to explain it away. She would have been able to say that she was just comforting boy A. Before then, it is believed that just in one of their meetings, Payton just leaned over and started kissing boy A out of nowhere. And we don't know boy A's reaction. However, he is only 13 years old, so I think it's safe to assume that he would have been shocked, taken aback, probably also didn't know what to do in a situation like that. It also must have been very, very confusing for him because Payton was someone that he now trusted. Payton was someone that he had grown close to, that he felt comfortable around, someone that he had also learned to be vulnerable around. And Payton is just absolutely despicable, using her position of power to take advantage of a vulnerable child. But what we definitely do know is that it wasn't long until it developed into a full-blown sexual relationship. And when I say relationship, I don't actually mean a relationship because he is only 13 years old. This is statutory rape. Boy A is way below the age of consent. So in no way is this a relationship. Oh no, no. But Payton goes on to take advantage of boy A in multiple different ways, which included both vaginal intercourse and oral sex. It is also said that this, quote, took place in multiple different locations across Ohio. So this is not just happening in one place, in Payton's office, for example, or wherever they're having their therapy sessions. Payton is literally traveling around Ohio with this child, raping him. And this predatory sexual relationship went on throughout the whole summer of 2023. And what blows my mind about this case is how quickly Payton acts. This is her first full-time job. She got this job less than 2 months ago, and she is already raping a child. It totally baffles me that she worked so hard to get into this position. She did her undergraduate degree, she got her master's degree, then she went on to do years of training and volunteer work to then land her apparent dream job. And then pretty much straight away, she wastes no time whatsoever. She starts using her position of power to abuse a child. And it does make you wonder, was this her goal from day one? Which makes her so dedicated as a predator. It really does. To go through all of those years getting her education and her training. But then it also makes me think, has she done this before? And we have no proof of that, we don't. It just baffles me that she literally just went in there and jumped straight in to raping a child. There was no build-up. No, nothing like that. She chose her victim, she groomed them, manipulated them, and started raping them. And also, where's the Payton that apparently hates paedophiles? Where is hashtag save the children now? But anyway, Payton is a paedophile herself. She is currently abusing a child that she is supposed to be looking after. But was she good at covering her tracks? Well, thankfully, no. Because it turns out that boy A's mother became incredibly suspicious of Payton. There was just something about Payton that she didn't trust. Maybe she didn't like the way Payton looked at her son, or maybe she didn't like the way she spoke about her son. But boy A's mom was just picking up on very weird signals coming from Payton. There was just something about her she just did not trust. So what did boy A's mother do? She went straight to the National Youth Advocate Program to express her concerns. And this was on the 22nd of September 2023. So just 3 months after Payton first got this job, and not long after she started seeing boy A. But what did Payton's supervisor do? Absolutely nothing. They didn't investigate further. They basically just ignored boy A's mother. They didn't even speak to Payton about this. They did absolutely nothing. So the predatory behavior of Payton just continues. However, a few more days pass and the mom just keeps getting more and more suspicious. Her gut is just telling her that something is not right. And she keeps thinking, like, what do I do? What do I do? No one at the National Youth Advocate Program is going to help her. So she decides she needs to do a bit more investigating on her own. So this is when the mom decides to pick up boy A's cell phone and she starts going through it. She starts looking at messages just to see if there's anything there from Payton. And she doesn't find much. Clearly, a lot of the messages that have been passing back and forth between boy A and Payton have been deleted. However, boy A's mom does find something. And it was a message from Payton to boy A that said, have you deleted the video? We need to make sure your mom doesn't see it. And obviously there was no video there. So boy A's mom is like, what video? Why is my son having to delete a video so I don't see it? What is being sent to him by his therapist? Boy A's mom didn't like this at all. She knew that there was something dodgy going on. She needed to get to the bottom of it and she went immediately to the police. She goes down to the police station with her son's phone with the evidence. She is incredibly concerned about what could possibly be happening and what happens next. The police, nor boy A's mom was expecting. It is literally the stuff of nightmares if you are a parent. Because the police take the phone, they conduct a forensic investigation to recover the video, which they did, and the video was of Payton Shires sexually assaulting 13-year-old boy A. Police were absolutely shocked by this video. The video was incredibly graphic. It showed Payton raping a child and it included vaginal intercourse. And poor boy A's mom, I cannot even imagine what she was going through when the police informed her what that video was. I mean, obviously boy A's mom knew that something wasn't right. She knew something dodgy was going on, but I cannot imagine that she thought that her son's therapist was raping her son. I bet not even in her worst nightmare did she think that there would be such a graphic, disturbing video of her son being raped on her son's phone. And also, why the hell is Payton even recording this? I mean, at least her recording this led her to be caught. But why the hell did she record herself raping a child? We can only assume that she wanted it to keep for herself. Because why else would you record that? And why did she think that she was going to be able to get away with this? So the police obviously had strong black and white evidence now that Payton is a child sexual predator, that she has raped a child. However, the police also want a full confession from Payton as well, just to put the nail in the coffin. So the police and boy A's mom set up a trap for Payton to try and get her to confess. They set up a 3-way phone call between the police, boy A's mom, and Payton. However, as far as Payton will be concerned, the phone call will be just between Payton and boy A's mom. She will have no idea that the police are actually listening in on the other end of the line. So boy A's mom calls up Payton and she just lays it out straight away. She says, "How dare you? How dare you do this to my son? I have seen the messages. I have seen the video. I know what you did. I know who you are." And unbelievably, Payton makes a full confession. She doesn't even try to deny what she has done. She just starts saying, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It was stupid. It all happened so fast." And then she tries to convince boy A's mom to not go to the police. And obviously she doesn't realize that the police are actually listening in. She starts saying, "I'm so sorry, please don't get the police involved. I'm sure we can figure something out." And we see this a lot in these kinds of cases with these kinds of predators. Literally the exact same thing happened in the case of Brittany Zamora. She also tried to convince the parents of her victims to not go to the police as well. But the police were obviously listening in on Payton's confession, and they recorded her whole confession. So on the 6th of October 2023, just a week after this phone call, this is actually Payton's 24th birthday. She was currently at home celebrating with her amazing predator of a fiance, but the police turn up. And what makes this just even more disturbing is that she currently has a 4-year-old son. There is only a 9-year difference between the age of her son and her victim. So the police turn up at her front door, they storm in, and they tell her that she was under arrest for sexual conduct with a minor. And Payton is so shocked that the police are there to arrest her. She is so shocked that boy A's mom actually went to the police. So Payton is now arrested. She is taken into custody, and you can see her mugshot online. And news quickly spread in the community about what Payton had been arrested for, what she was being accused of, and people were now showing up at her home with her fiance at home, demanding to know what happened. But the fiance just kept himself locked in the house, like the curtains, blinds shut and everything. He didn't want to address anything. So Payton's bond for bail was set at $50,000, which she paid straight away. So unfortunately, Payton was released on bail. But is this case over? No, unfortunately not, because something unbelievable is about to happen. Because on Thursday, the 26th of October 2023, which is approximately 3 weeks after Payton has been arrested, Payton shows up at boy A's home with a gun. Payton starts banging on the front door. She's screaming. She's crying. She starts shouting, "I'm going to kill you," repeatedly, which, oh my God, can you imagine how terrifying that would be? Payton, who is a child sexual predator, who has raped a 13-year-old boy multiple times, has now turned up at his home with a gun, threatening to kill people in that house. God knows what she's actually capable of. So Payton starts shouting and screaming, "You've ruined my life. You've ruined my life. This is all your fault. Why did you go to the police? How could you do this?" And she wants to kill the mom because she's blaming the mom for everything. She's blaming the mom for going to the police. And it's like, really, Payton? Oh my God, she is so entitled. Did she really think that a parent of a child who she has raped, did she really think that they were not going to go to the police? She is delusional. What the hell is going through her brain? So Payton wants revenge on boy A's mom. Payton is there. She's banging on the door. She has this gun. She's being very intimidating. And this is when she actually starts firing the gun at the front of the house. She starts firing shots at the front door, at the windows. She was leaving bullet holes in the house. Neighbours could hear shots being fired, and this would have been absolutely terrifying for everybody. Multiple 911 calls were being placed, and unfortunately, somehow Payton managed to make her way inside of the house. And I don't know how she did this. I don't know if she blew the lock off of the front door. Maybe she fired a shot through a window and smashed the window, and that is how she got in. But Payton got inside the house, and she has a gun. She is looking for revenge. But thankfully, boy A and his mom and the rest of his family, they were not home. Boy A's mom was actually watching all of this go down on security cameras from an app on her phone. And boy A's mom also placed a 911 call to police as soon as Payton turned up. But it just gives me so many chills. It really does. The boy A's mom was just there on her phone watching Payton walk around her home with a gun threatening to kill her. And I'm just so thankful that the family were not home, because this case could have ended in a completely different way. So anyway, the police arrive after multiple 911 calls have been placed, and now a standoff begins. By this point, Payton, who is still armed, has made her way onto the porch, and she sat down. She refused to move, and she turned the gun on herself. Payton is now threatening to take her own life because she is claiming that she cannot live with herself after what she has done. And this armed standoff went on for hours. No matter what the police tried, they could not talk Payton down. But finally, after an incredibly long time, police managed to disarm Payton. No harm came to anyone. She was now placed in handcuffs and taken into custody for a second time. And boy A's family were absolutely distraught because they were really worried that Payton was going to be able to get out on bail again. And then she would come back to their house and try and kill them again. But thankfully, Payton's bail was revoked. She was not allowed out on bail. Obviously, it would have been very concerning if they let her out on bail again. So now she had to stay in jail awaiting trial. She was also given an extra charge of intimidating a witness by force of threat. However, she was not charged with attempted murder, which blows my mind because she literally turned up at the house with a gun and she said, "I am going to kill you." If that is not attempted murder, I don't know what is. She was literally firing shots at the house. She went into the house. But yeah, she was not charged with attempted murder. So during Payton's time in custody awaiting trial, she started coming up with so many BS excuses to explain why she raped a child. She started to say that boy A was the one that started the relationship. It was all his fault. That he was the one, as a child, that coerced her into a relationship, and that he was also blackmailing her. And I'm like, blackmailing you over what? And when Payton finally went to trial, she continued on with all of these BS excuses of why she raped a child. She continued to say that boy A coerced her. She also has a very strong victim mindset because she started crying. She started saying that she didn't mean to harm anyone. She never meant to harm the mom. She never intended to kill her.
I'm really sorry that all of this happened. I feel horrible that the mother and that their family has been affected so horribly by this. I was not thinking rationally at the time that I showed up to the mother's house. I never had intentions to harm anybody.
And she actually had the audacity to stand up and thank boy A's mom for phoning the police that day and for saving her life. Oh, I have to take a deep breath. I really do, because I'm like, how dare she?
And I'm just thankful that she took the right steps to call the police and she saved my life that day.
She also said that she cared for boy A and that she wanted to support him, and that she said, quote, her lack of boundaries caused severe mistakes to be made. I don't even think she knows what the word boundary means.
I just feel horrible for the mistakes that I made in the social worker-client relationship. I cared for him, I wanted to support him, but my lack of boundaries caused severe mistakes to be made.
But later on, the judge tore her apart for pretty much everything she said, especially about the part where she was blaming boy A. The judge said he was a child. He was trying to get the help he needed. You're the adult. You're professionally trained to avoid this. And I understand what the judge was saying, I do. However, you do not need to be professionally trained to avoid raping a child. That should just be a given. You don't need training for that. But the prosecution had a ton of evidence against Payton. They had the video of her sexually assaulting boy A. They also had her full taped confession. There was no way that Payton was going to be found not guilty, and she knew this. So eventually she did change her plea to guilty. So all that was left was for her to be sentenced. And her sentencing finally took place in June of 2024. And Payton was told that she could be facing up to 28 years in prison, especially after she showed up at the victim's home with a gun threatening to take someone's life. But Payton, she put on her victim hat on yet again, and she pleaded with the judge to be more lenient with the sentencing. She said that she had a young son at home that needed her. Payton said that it wouldn't be fair on her son if she spent a long time in prison. And again, I'm thinking, well, maybe you should have thought of that before you committed sexual assault against a minor. However, annoyingly, Payton's pleas seemed to work, because even though she was facing up to 28 years, she was only sentenced to 4 years and 9 months for raping a child. And again, she was in a position of power and care, which makes it 10 times worse. And that is not the only infuriating thing that I have to tell you. Oh no. And brace yourselves for this, because 253 days were taken off of Payton's sentence because of time already served, which means that with good behavior, Payton could be released in 18 months. And because that was back in June of 24, that means that by the end of 2025, so this year, the child rapist of Payton Shires could be back out on the streets. And she will only be 26 years old. And that makes me so angry. And I am so angry for boy A's family as well. Can you imagine how terrified they must be that Payton could get out by the end of this year? Boy A will still be a minor, and I just really hope that she doesn't get released at the end of this year, because how is that fair? How is it that she has raped a child, abused her position of power, and she barely spends any time in prison? And in the aftermath of this case, boy A's mom has said that this whole thing has had such a devastating impact on her son. She has since sued both Payton and her employer, the National Youth Advocate Program. She said that she trusted Payton. She was a social worker. She was a therapist. She was somebody that was there to help her son. She also trusted the National Youth Advocate Program, who was also there to help protect and care for her son. But instead, he was manipulated, groomed, and sexually assaulted. She has since completely lost faith in the system. And she finished by saying, quote, "I regret that I ever let you into my house in the first place." And my heart goes out to boy A and his whole family. I am so sorry that the system let him down so terribly. And I am so sorry that Payton could possibly get out by the end of this year, because that is not fair given what she has done. So that brings us to the end of today's horrific case. Another female sexual predator in a position of power. And I truly cannot believe how many cases like this that I am seeing recently, which is why I think they're important to shed light on this issue, because it clearly is an issue right now. So as always, let me know your thoughts, theories, and opinions, and don't forget to let me know your case suggestions in the comments down below, because I always want to know what you want to hear next. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.